Brothers and sisters, my beloved, hello. How are you doing today? Welcome to Readings with Regina. And I have some new subscribers. Welcome. And be sure to hit that like button. That means something to YouTube. I'm not quite sure what it means, but it means something to the algorithms in YouTube. I also want to mention this. My sister girl Panther in Paris can't see my videos. I just found out that some Vallejo Panthers, Vallejo, California, they can't get to my videos. So I don't know what's going on here, but I just wanted to say that to the people now. I'm also saying that because, I want you to use these videos as teaching tools. Always remember that. And we're going to begin in the past, in the African American past. That means I'm going to start with literature, a book that was written during the enslavement period. And this book is a true story. It has been validated by actual scholars. And even if it wasn't, it is a true story. You will hear the voice of this good sister, Linda Brent, okay, who was an enslaved woman all of her life. I should say, an enslaved child. Worse, she had a pedophilic master during her teenage years, and that pig interrogated this girl, tried to rape this girl. Now, this is even in the house where Dr. Flint, her master, had a wife. Yo, yes. During slavery, white men had access to every black girl and teen and woman. All right. Now, I wanted to begin with that because Linda Brent's story, where I'm going to pick up in just a moment, she had a brother, a good black brother, who wanted to marry her. He was a carpenter during slavery, a free black man. Now, Linda was 15 years old, and this black free man who was a carpenter wanted to marry her. He even went to Dr. Flint, her rotten master, and said, look, I will buy BUI. I will buy Linda from you. You know what her master said? Nah, blood. We didn't say blood, but you know me. No, you can't marry her. No, I'm not selling her. Aye. Because he was setting up Linda for rape. So Linda wanted to get back at him. There was a white guy in the town who wanted to get with Linda. He liked Linda. And Linda allowed him into her intimate parts. I'll put it like that. And Linda became pregnant. And the only reason she really became pregnant because she knew that her pregnancy would stop the vicious, vile lewdness of her rotten, low-down, pig dog master, Dr. Flint. So this is where we are now. Now, Linda Brent's grandmother is respected in this town. She was set free. She's a Baker woman. A lot of people know her and respect her. Linda Brent's grandmother, when she first learned of Linda's pregnancy, just excoriated her, blamed her, told her she had terrible character, that she was a disgrace. Now, I understand this. I really didn't understand the grandmother. I really didn't. Okay? Now, boom. How in the world are you going to blame this child who has been harassed by her master for years for getting pregnant by somebody else who could, in fact, buy her and was white? Understand that. Because it is white men and white women who had the power over black people at that time. But anyway, I'm going to continue with the story. Let me show you it again. Incidents in the life of a slave girl. All right, here we go. I returned to my good grandmother's house. She had an interview with Mr. Sands, that's the white guy that got her pregnant. When she asked him why he could not have left her own ewe lamb, EWE, lamb, whether there were not plenty of slaves who did not care about character. Now, notice this. Notice this, the character issue for the black virgin during slavery. He made no answer, but he spoke kind and encouraging words. He promised to care for my child and to buy me. I'm going to say this again. He promised to care for my child and to buy me. Buy me. Be the conditions what they might be. I had not seen Dr. Flint, that's the pedophile, her master, for 5 days. I had never seen him since I made the avowal to him. He talked of the disgrace I had brought on myself, how I had sinned against my master. Now here's her potential rapist. All right, let me just read. And mortified my old grandmother. He intimated that I had accepted, that if I had accepted his proposals, he, as a physician, could have saved me from exposure. He even condescended to pity me. Could he have offered wormwood more bitter? He, whose persecutions had been the cause of my sin. You see how slavery was looked upon? You see how virginity was looked upon during slavery? Linda, said he, though you have been criminal towards me, I feel for you, and I can pardon you if you obey my wishes. Tell me whether the fellow you wanted to marry is the father of your child. If you deceive me, you shall feel the fires of hell. I did not feel as proud as I had done. My strongest weapon with him was gone. I was lowered in my own estimation and had resolved to bear his abuse in silence. But when he spoke contemptuously of the lover who had always treated me honorably, when I remembered that, but for him, I might have been a virtuous, free, and happy wife, she's talking about the brother that wanted to buy her, I lost my patience. I have sinned against God and myself, I replied, but not against you. He clenched his teeth and muttered, Curse you! He came towards me with ill-suppressed rage and exclaimed, You obstinate girl, I could grind your bones to powder. Now that's a very interesting statement. And I'm going to tell you why. I could grind your bones to powder. That's what they did to Nat Turner. And they probably did that to other blacks too. You dig? Yes, they would kill you and then take your bones, grind them into powder, and actually put the powder on themselves. I kid you not. Look it up. In the case of Nat Turner, they actually made a salve out of his body parts, and put them on themselves because of the power that Brother Nat Turner had. You have thrown yourself away on some worthless rascal. You are weak-minded and have been easily persuaded by those who don't care a straw for you. The future will settle accounts between us. You are blinded now, but hereafter you will be convinced that your master was your best friend. Now he'd been terrorizing this kid since she was 10 or 11 years old. She's 15 now. But he sees himself as her best friend. Hey, I'm telling you. Let me stop here and get this comment. Up, James Green, love. Let me bring you up. I'm trying to bring you up. Hello, James Green. I'm so pleased when you're here. All right, here we go. Okay, where am I? But hereafter you will be convinced that your master was your best friend. My goodness. My lenity towards you is proof of it. I might have punished you in many ways. I might have had you whipped. I might have had you whipped till you fell dead under the lash. Do you hear this? This is the power the white men had over enslaved people, men and women. But I wanted you to live. I would have bettered your condition. Sure. Others cannot do it. You are my slave. Your mistress, disgusted by your conduct, forbids you to return to the house. Therefore, I leave you here for the present, but I shall see you often. I will call tomorrow. He came with frowning brows that showed a dissatisfied state of mind. After asking about my health, he inquired whether my board was paid and who visited me. He then went on to say that he had neglected his duty, that as a physician, there were certain things that he ought to have explained to me. Then followed talk such as would have made the most shameless blush. He ordered me to stand up before him. I obeyed. I command you, he said, to tell me whether the father of your child is white or black. I hesitated. Answer me this instant, he exclaimed. I did not answer. He sprang upon me like a wolf and grabbed my arm as if he would have broken it. Do you love him? Said he in a hissing tone. I am thankful that I do not despise him, I replied. He raised his hand to strike me, but it fell again. I don't know what arrested the blow. He sat down with lips tightly compressed. At last he spoke. I came here, said he, to make you a friendly proposition, but your ingratitude chafes me beyond endurance. You turn aside all my good intentions towards you. What good intentions? Okay, where am I? I don't know what it is that keeps me from killing you. Because if he had killed her, he wouldn't have went to jail. Killing a slave was fine. Oh, yes, fine. Again he rose as if he had a mind to strike me. But he resumed. On one condition will I forgive your insolence and crime. You must henceforth have no communication of any kind with the father of your child. You must not ask anything from him or receive anything from him. I will take care of you and your child. By the way, he's 45 or 50 years old and she's 15. Boom. You had better promise this at once and not wait till you are deserted by him. This is the last act of mercy I shall show towards you. I said something about being unwilling to have my child supported by a man who had cursed it and me also. He rejoined that a woman who had sunk to my level had no right to expect anything else. He asked for the last time, would I accept his kindness? I answered, no. Fantastic. Very good. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. That's Linda Brent. Can you imagine this? I want you all to understand before I go to the next book. Ida B. Wells. Oh, my hero. Ida B. Wells is the same age as Linda Brent. All right. She was born just when slavery ended. But before I get to Linda Brent, I want to, before I get to Ida B. Wells, I want to say one more thing about Linda Brent's story. Do you see, people, how virginity in a woman was very important in this society? Now, most enslaved women were just raped repeatedly. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. However, the idea of being a virgin, that was cultural. And I want you to compare that to virginity of today. I mean, look, sisters, you don't be giving it up so quickly. No, I'm not saying that you have to stay a virgin. But if you can, before marriage, fine. Yes. This is a society that wants you to be promiscuous. This is a society that wants to take away your power. So understand that. The morality during slavery, that grandmother raised Linda and tried to help her remain a virgin. So virginity was very important during the enslavement period. Also, I need to say this to you too. Virginity was also important to let me put this up. There you go. Hypnosis. Yes, where white people actually thought that they could control every aspect of your life during slavery. And the law allowed that to be. Okay, now I'm going to go to Ida B. Wells. If you all don't know Ida B. Wells, I'm not going to explain her greatness right now. I'm just going to read her book. If you don't really know why she is a heroic black figure, I want you to look her up. Okay, where am I? Oh, now, Ida B. Wells is 15 years old. Slavery is supposedly over, although she experienced segregation when she was on a train and the conductor tried to move her to the smoker's car and she bit him. She fought him. Then she sued the railroad company. Love it. All of the time. And let me just say this. She read poetry. The poetry of her day? Yes. Now, there was no black poetry. No. There were no black books. No. That didn't happen until the 1960s. Boom. But she was a voracious reader. And what is my show called? Readings with Regina. Because I am attempting to make sure that this current generation really understands the value of reading to enhance your intellect. Okay, I'm going to pick up where I left off. The editor, who had held a position in the city of Washington for a number of years, was a brilliant man. She's working for a church newspaper. In the course of time, he got his job back and returned to Washington, leaving the Evening Star, that's a newspaper, without an editor. To my great surprise, I was elected to fill the vacancy. Remember, this is a kid. She's at the 15, 16, maybe 17. That's all she is. Dig. Her parents had been slaves, but they taught her to read. And she became so smart that she got a teaching position at 15. Now she's working for a newspaper. To my great surprise, I was elected to fill the vacancy. I tried to make my offering as acceptable as his had been, and before long I found that I liked the work. The Lyceum attendance was increased by people who said they came to hear the Evening Star read. See, newspapers were read to people during that time. No TV, no movies, none of that. The written word was entertainment. Among them, one Friday evening was Reverend R.N. County, pastor of one of the leading Baptist churches, who also published a weekly called The Living Way. He gave us a very nice notice in his paper the next week, copying some of my matter and invited me to do some writing for his paper. All of this, although gratifying, surprised me very much, for I had had no training except what the work on the Evening Star had given me, and no literary gifts and graces. But I had observed and thought much about conditions as I had seen them in the country schools and churches. I had an instinctive feeling that the people who had little or no school training should have something coming into their homes weekly, which dealt with their problems in a simple, helpful way. So in weekly letters to the Living Way, I wrote in a plain, common sense way on the things which concern our people. Knowing that their education was limited, I never used a word of two syllables where one would serve the purpose. I signed these articles Iola. It was not long before these articles were copied and commented on by other Negro newspapers in the country, and I received lessons from other editors inviting me to write for them. In the meantime, this is 1886, my aunt, who had accepted an opportunity to go to California the year before, wrote me to join her there, as there was a chance for me to secure a school in the town of Visalia. That's really kind of Fresno today, where she lived. She had taken my two sisters with her as well as her own three children. I had made a very pleasant place for myself in the life of Memphis by the time, and I did not want to leave. But my Aunt Fanny, who was such only by marriage to my uncle, had given me help and a home with her when I badly needed it. Ida's parents were dead. They died during a yellow fever epidemic, and cared for my two sisters while I was teaching. I felt that I owed her a debt of gratitude and that I ought to go. An excursion of the National Education Association was taking teachers to Topeka, Kansas, and an excursion of the GAR was going from there to California, stopping at all the notable places. As I had never done any traveling, it would give me a chance to take advantage of these excursions and to see my aunt and get her consent to come back to Memphis. I went and wrote letters back to the Living Way, that's the newspaper she worked for, describing Kansas City, Topeka, the Garden of the Gods, Denver, Salt Lake City, San Francisco, and such all along the line. When I got to the little town of Visalia, I was persuaded by my aunt to sell my return ticket and accept the school offered to me there by the superintendent. Not a dozen colored families lived there, and although there was plenty of work, it was very dull and lonely for my aunt and the 5 youngsters in the family. There was good work and good wages for her and better health than back in Memphis, but no companionship. So I decided to stay with her. I regretted it almost as soon as I sold my ticket. When I told my aunt that it was even worse for me, a young woman, to have nothing to look forward to, as I was just beginning to live and had all my life before me, she said that if I returned, I must take my 2 sisters with me. She knew very well that I had no money with which to do so. I thought long over the matter, then wrote a letter to Mr. Robert Church of Memphis, Tennessee, asking for the loan of $150 with which to return. I told him the circumstances of my condition, that although he did not know me, he could find out by reference to the Board of Education that I was a teacher in the public schools and would thus be able to repay the money. I told him that I wrote to him because he was the only colored man of my race that I knew who could lend me that much money and wait for me to repay it. I also told him not to send the money unless I had been re-elected, as otherwise there would be no need for me to come back to Memphis. I had also told Professor W. W. Yates of the Kansas City, Missouri schools, who was visiting in San Francisco and came down to see me before returning home, that I hoped my friends back east would not forget me because although I had tried to do my duty, I could see nothing whatever for me so far away from everyone I knew. September came on apace. The schools in California opened on the first Monday in September, in Kansas City on the second Monday, and in Memphis, Tennessee on the third Monday. Hearing nothing from my friends, I went to school in Visalia on Monday and registered 18 pupils, all the colored contingent of the town. The school was a makeshift one-room building. The separation of the 2 races in the school had been asked for by the colored people themselves. Ain't that deep? Ain't that deep? The black families, the few that were in this town, wanted a separate school from the whites, and these were probably poor whites at that. And they had been given second-rate facilities that are usual in such places. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Here we go. So that's Ida B. Wells. Fantastic woman. She was so educated by her parents that she could get a job without a formal education. Just her parents taught her. She could get a job as a teacher at 15. I want y'all to think about that. I truly do. You should not just have your children. Let me find this book. Have your children looking at TV, going to movies, being on computer. No, you should make sure that your children are educated to the nth degree. If you know scholars in your family, treat them well, have them teach your children. Make sure that your children know sports, some kind of sport, something. Make sure they know how to play an instrument. Yes, because to learn music is learning another language. Boom. It advances the intellect within the brain. Now I'm going to go to Assata, the good sister Assata, that you all should know about, okay? And she's a little girl, and she's being raised in Wilmington, North Carolina, by her grandparents, and her grandparents own a beach. Okay. I already told you last time we were together that the white folks tried to harass the grandfather, and he got out his gun, to stop the nonsense. Now I'm going to begin with her grandmother. One night, as my grandmother and I were fastening the chain in place, that's the chain to their beach, the parking lot, and locking it, a white man drove up to the lot and, in an arrogant tone of voice, ordered my grandmother to open the gate so that he could turn his car around. My grandmother, looking very dignified, said, "No, I can't do that." Then, in a nicer voice, he asked my grandmother again to open the gate. "No," she said again. "Come on now, Auntie. I got a mammy in my house. Now open the gate and let me turn around." "What'd you say?" asked my grandmother. "I said I got a mammy in my house. Now come on, open up." My grandmother leaned over in the man's face. "I don't care how many mammies you got in your house. I don't care if you got 100 mammies in your house. You're gonna back out of here tonight, and I want you off of my property now, right now." The man turned as red as a redneck can turn and started to back his car up. The road was very narrow, barely wide enough for one car, and there was no way he could turn around without getting stuck in the sand. He backed up for more than a quarter of a mile, and we looked at him backing up. My grandmother and I laughed so hard the tears fell from our eyes. Every day when we drove from the house on 7th Street to the beach, we passed a beautiful park with a zoo, and every day I would beg, plead, whine, and nag my grandmother to take me to the zoo. It was almost an obsession. She would always say that one day she would take me, but one day never came. I would sit in the car pouting, thinking how mean she was. I thought that she had to be the meanest woman on the face of the earth. Finally, with the strangest look on her face, she told me that we were not allowed in the zoo because we were black. Segregation. When we were on the beach, we shopped at Carolina Beach. It had an amusement park. But of course, black people were not permitted to go in. Every time we passed it, I looked at the merry-go-round and the Ferris wheel and the little cars and airplanes, and my heart would just long to ride them. But my favorite forbidden ride had little boats in a pool of water, and every time I passed them, I felt frustrated and deprived. Of course, persistent creature that I am, I always asked to be taken on the rides, knowing full well what the answer would be. One summer, my mother and sister and I were walking down the boardwalk. My mother was spending part of her summer helping my grandparents in the business. As soon as we neared the rides, I went into my usual act. I continued ad nauseum until my mother, grinning, said, "All right, all right, all right. I'm going to try to get us in. When we get over there, I don't want to hear one word out of either of you. Just let me do all the talking. And if they ask you anything, don't answer, okay? Okay." My mother went over to the ticket booth and began talking. I didn't understand a word she was saying. The lady at the ticket window kept telling my mother that she couldn't sell her any tickets. My mother kept talking very fast and waving her hands. The manager came over and told my mother she couldn't buy any tickets and that we couldn't go into the park. My mother kept talking and waving her hands, and soon she was screaming this foreign language. I didn't know if she was speaking a play language or a real one. Several other men came over. They talked to my mother. She continued. After the men went to one side and had a conference, they returned and told the ticket seller to give my mother the tickets. I couldn't believe it. All at once, we were laughing and giggling and riding the rides. All the white people were staring at us, but we didn't care. We were busy having a ball. When I got into one of those little boats, my mother practically had to drag me out. I was in my glory. When we finished the rides, we went to the Dairy Queen for ice cream. We sang and laughed all the way home. When we got home, my mother explained that she had been speaking Spanish and had told the managers that she was from a Spanish country and that if he didn't let us in, she would call the embassy and the United Nations, and I don't know who all else. We laughed and talked about it for days, but it was a lesson I never forgot. Anybody, no matter who they were, could come right off the boat and get more rights and respect than American blacks. That is young Assata experiencing segregation. Her mother had to be somebody other than a black American that was once enslaved in this country in order to get access to the facilities that her mother's money in taxes paid for. That is racism in America personified. And I want all of you to understand this before I sign off for today. I always say this. Look, okay, you might need a job in America. I can dig it. I've had jobs in America, but make a job of your own that is relevant to raising the intellect and the employment of black people. We have got to do what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad once said, do for self. Do not be depending on white people, your boss, whatever, your supervisor, to provide a life for you. Also understand this, people, my Lord, my Lord. Think about the forces that sent you to earth. Why are you here? You are here to make the planet better. And I am saying to you, together we can make a new and better world. I really believe that. Okay, brothers and sisters? Well, I'm about to sign off. You know that I love you dearly. You know that. You know that I pray for you every day and every night. I'm not kidding. I do. Okay, so I done said something. Let me bring that up. I'm crazy about her. I'm crazy about all my subscribers. How hateful they are of us. And yes, listen, yo, okay. And all of that sentiment is still among us today. I think all of y'all know that. You know we have problems as black people today. But what I also want you to know is that we got the power. Yes, we do. To change our circumstances. And to do that, we must start thinking individually and deeply and knowingly about our position in this country. Anytime I started off with slavery, Linda Brent's in slavery. She's owned by this white demonic bastard. Okay? Boom. She's owned. This is the 1800s. Then I go to the late 1800s. Post-slavery, supposedly. Ida B. Wells was still segregated against. Boom. Right into the 1950s with Assata Shakur, segregation personified. Now, how did we get out of that? Because collectively we came together and fought against racist laws and other inequities in America. Okay, people, it is a Thursday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you learned something this weekend. I hope you make sure your children learn something this weekend. And I will see you back next Tuesday. It's always been a pleasure. I love you dearly. Bye now.